John Maxwell talks about this a lot. Living intentionally and living with purpose. It's interesting. We can easily get caught up in, especially as contractors, we can get caught up in the daily grind. Oh, I've got to get up. I've got to do this. I have to start at 6 a.m. Because I have to beat everybody to the office and I have to take care of all this stuff. What if you took 15, 30 minutes to just take care of you first, right? And I'm a huge proponent of that. What if you just took 15 to 30 minutes to take care of you first, to calm yourself, to get available to receive what in the world's going to happen today, because you have no idea the good, the bad, the ugly. But what if you just took time to take care of you for just a few minutes? What that does for the rest of your day is amazing.
Running a home service business is hard. So how is it that some people make it look so easy? Well, we'll tell you. This is the Freedom Blueprint Podcast. It's always good to hear the wins that successful contractors have. But have you ever thought that the best advice would be to hear about the speed bumps they encountered, the mistakes they've made along the way? We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. We want you to be successful and avoid the mistakes others have made. Let's get this party started. Welcome to the Freedom Blueprint Podcast. Now your host, Justin Deese.
Welcome to Freedom Blueprint Podcast. We got a pretty special guest today for hanging out with us. We're going to talk a little bit about Service Nation. We're going to talk a little bit about Service World that's coming up. And we're going to talk a little bit about Chris Michel and his adventures and journey that led him to where he is today. Chris, how you doing, man?
Doing great, Justin. Thanks for having me, man.
Shoot, yeah, it's awesome to have you on here. And I'm excited to learn a little bit more about Chris Michel, the mystery man. So,
All right.
you and I have known each other for a while, but I have so many questions. I can't wait to ask you in a recording setting.
Let's start off with the one question everybody has. Yes, my last name is Michel. It's pronounced the same. It's spelled the same as Matt. We are not related. No offense. Love Matt. He's wonderful. I wish I was related to him, but we are not related. That's the one question I get like time and time again is that are you related?
I would pretend to be third cousins so that you could go to the ranch and hang out. That would be me.
Well, yeah, again, it's right, rubbing elbows. It's rubbing elbows with the right people. So
that's awesome. And that is, I remember when you joined the Service Nation, that was a lot of, I think that was probably one of the first questions I asked you, and you're like, no.
Well, you and about 300 other people. Yeah.
Right. So tell us a little bit. Obviously, right now you are with Service Nation, and your training director is your title, right?
Yes.
Did I say that right?
Yes.
But before Chris Michel was the training director of Service Nation, because you've been in our trade for quite some time. So tell us a little bit about what that journey has looked like for you.
Well, I was born no, I won't go that far back, but I've been working in sales for over 30 years. And part of that journey was back in the early 2000s. I was traveling a lot, and I had younger kids. And a buddy of mine approached me and said, hey, would you be interested in getting into HVAC and sales? And I said, well, it depends. What's the deal? And he said, well, you could probably double your income and you get to stay home every day and, every weekend and all that stuff, right? And I was like, all right, why not, right? So I entered the trades, started working for Service Experts back in 2004. And the rest, as they say, is history. I've gotten to do so much and be a part of so many different things in the trades. Started my journey in sales. Then I got an opportunity with Service Experts to go and lead a company over in Memphis, Tennessee for a few years. And as a general manager, I really learned how to understand the P&Ls and how to do all the financials and learning all that kind of background stuff from a guy named Greg Worley. And the guy was amazing. And to this day, I would still run through a wall for him. I mean, he was that kind of a leader. And so I learned a lot from him on how to raise leaders and things like that and how to be a leader. Throughout my journey, though, I've been a sales manager. I've been an operations manager. The last contractor that I worked for was here in the Atlanta metro area when I moved back to Atlanta back in 2012, and worked for them for a number of years, got into management, and then they sold to a private equity group. And when they did that, I stuck around for about another year, and then I went to work for Daikin. And I was a territory sales manager for a number of years and learned a ton about how to really get in with the contractors and help them do what they do best and what they love to do. And, as contractors, a lot of times we know how to turn a wrench. We just don't know how to run a business. And it's learning the financials. It's learning the business acumen. It's learning how to do those things that we really don't see day in and day out when we're turning wrenches or when we're selling equipment. And so I got to see and do all that stuff on the wholesale side, because that was my job, was not just selling boxes, but to really help the contractors get better at what they do. And after a couple of years there, I decided to start my own business. And when I did that for a couple of years, and then I started with Service Nation in May of 23.
Awesome. And as so that's a big progression, because when you started out, did you start out selling?
Well, yes, outside of when I left college, when I finished college, I started in sales, but then my first job in the trades was in sales. And so it was a couple of years into that where I actually got to go and run a heating and air conditioning company, because I wanted to do more. I wanted to be more, and selling was fine. I could do it and I really enjoyed it. But what I just wanted to be more and do more. And along that whole journey of sales, what I learned early on is that I really enjoyed helping people. And so my why got defined for me early on in my career, but it wasn't until about 2017 when I read 2016, 2017, somewhere in that time frame, where I read the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And
Great book.
it really solidified that for me, that my why was I'm inspired to help people do what inspires them so that they may be fulfilled. Well, I was doing that all along, right? And so I got the opportunity time and time again to help other people and be successful. And when I went to run that heating and air company, one of the first meetings that I had with the team was, hey, Justin, you're on the team, you're a technician, that's awesome. Is that what you want to do the rest of your life? If not, where do you want to go? What do you want to be, right? What does that look like for you? Do you want my job? If you want my job, let's figure out how to get you from where you are to where you need to be so that you can be in a position to take over my job, because I'm all for it. And that kind of fueled what I'm doing today. And that's why I love being the, director of training, whatever. I love helping people get their aha moments where they get that opportunity to go, you know what, this is how that works. This is how I can make this happen.
Yeah, very, very cool. And you're very good at it, but I don't want to
you.
get to the today yet. Not yet. Because I don't want to gloss over a couple things that I think are important. And Chris, you're a private guy, and I think that there's some big stuff you've done, and you tend to not openly share, not because you're embarrassed or whatever. I think you're a very humble person, and I think that's a great trait. But so yeah, when you got done with a career in college football, like, tell us a little more about that. Like, we want to know about that kind of stuff.
Well, I went to the University of Illinois back in the mid '80s, and back in the mid '80s, and I got to play with some pretty incredible folks. Right, I got to see some really amazing things, and being ranked in the nation back in the days when football wasn't on. I mean, very few games were on television back then. Right now, you can't turn on television nowadays in the fall on the weekend without running over 6 different games on 20 different channels. And right, I mean, but we were doing back in the day. I was a walk-on at the University of Illinois, and I was actually told by my high school coach that he didn't think I was good enough to play college football, let alone Big Ten football. And I was like, it's one of those hold my beer moments, right?
Yeah.
I'll be right back. And so I really enjoyed it. I really had a good time, and lettered at the University of Illinois through playing varsity, and just had a great time. Met some great folks. Still in touch with some of those folks even today. But some of those guys went on to play professional football. And so when I was actually towards the end of my football career at the University of Illinois, I remember, here's a fun story. I remember calling my dad and saying, or calling my mom and saying, Mom, you know what, I'm done. I'm not gonna play my 5th year. And she goes, thank God, finally. And I was like, all right, that's interesting, but okay. But she was married to a guy who played for Bear Bryant. And so her husband had played college football, but he blew out his knee. And as a result, back in those days, they took away your scholarship. Now, he played a little bit before I did, but the last game that Bear Bryant ever coached was against the University of Illinois at the Liberty Bowl in Memphis, Tennessee in 1982. So it was just before I came on. But so it was really interesting, that dynamic between who this guy was, who I was, that we played, right, and at these different colleges. Well, I called my dad, and my dad wasn't as appreciative of the fact that I was beating myself up daily to do this sport. And so I said, Dad, I'm not going to play anymore. And he goes, wow, if they go to the Rose Bowl next year, I'll never forgive you. And I went, what? And so that helped me write the book, and we'll talk about that in a second. But that's one of those other little personal moments that was like, all right. And I remember hanging up the phone going, what was that? And so we eventually got to have a conversation, and he said, all I was trying to do was motivate you. I was like, well, that was a really crappy way of doing that, Dad.
You missed the mark just a smidge.
Yeah. And so as a parent, right, you go, probably not the best use of
So for anybody who has never met you in person, and I want to ask stats now, I'm talking in college. You're a tall guy.
Uh-huh.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'5". And I weigh, believe it or not, I weigh less now than I did when I played football in college. And I couldn't gain weight.
Good for you.
So, well, it took years of figuring out that I'm not the 10% body fat, really cut type of person that I was in college. But I couldn't
yeah, me neither.
I just couldn't gain weight in college. I just couldn't. But like you hear about all these athletes, they're burning thousands and thousands of calories a day just sitting around watching TV, right? Because they've been doing the work. They put in all the exercise and all these other things, and their metabolism is just off the charts. So, but I was 6'5", about 230 and 235. And I only played 3 downs at tight end. That was my chosen position. I was mostly special teams. That's where I played. And I got my hand dirty on defense and outside linebacker and defensive end. And right, I tried different things just to see where I could help out and contribute to the team.
That's awesome. So what are some things that you learned playing football and sales? Like, what are some correlations between the two that you're like, at the moment you're like, I see how this was.
Well, I can't say it was in the moment. It was definitely years later when the aha moment, the epiphany kind of set in. I think for a lot of athletes, the ability to persevere and know that, falling down on your face is going to happen. Failure is going to happen. But that doesn't stop you. That it continues to help to sometimes motivate you, but sometimes just to help move you in the right direction. And Edison said, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I just figured out 1,000 ways not to invent a light bulb, right? or 1,000 different ways to invent a light bulb. And so it's one of those where you look at that opportunity and you go, okay, now I can improve this. I've got to do this a little bit better. And that's sales, that's business, that's any of that stuff. It's how do we get a little bit better at what we do, as opposed to just doing the same thing over and over and hoping things get better. The reality is, it's the thing with me in sports and sales and sports and business. It's that perseverance. It's that ability to look at failure as not. It's not like it's not an option. Failure is really how we learn, but it's also a great trainer. It's also a great way to go, okay, I did it this way that time and I got that result. What if I did this a little bit different? What if I said it this way? What if I just did this a little bit different? Could I get different results? And that's what it really taught me, was the ability to continue to persevere and continue to move through the, sometimes the failure it can be overwhelming, right? Because you hit this rut and it's just loss after loss after loss after loss. My senior year in high school, this is part of the reason why I got the conversation that said you shouldn't play football on a collegiate level, was because we went into that season winners our junior year, and we had a really good up-and-coming junior team, and we went winless that season, my senior year in high school. And you look at that and you go, wow, you probably should have just walked away. Well, there were
tough.
5 or 6 of us. Yeah, there was 5 or 6 of us who went on to play collegiate football. And
that's impressive.
From an O and whatever team, right? But we also understood that, life's not, it doesn't stop with high school. It doesn't stop with college. It doesn't stop with whatever little shortcoming that you have. It just moves forward. And you got to figure out a way to work through that stuff and make yourself a little bit better.
Yeah, I would say that would be a really tough way to stay positive in order to go to college, is to have an over season. But, for you guys to have, half a dozen guys to go on to play college ball, I think for the majority of you that did that, my guess would be those half a dozen people, if you keep in touch with any of them now, most of them are probably successful because perseverance is probably one of their top key personality traits, and learning from mistakes. They probably all went, okay, here's what we should do different next time. And then, A/B testing on the fly, basically.
Right. Yep. A lot of if-then statements, right?
So you mentioned the book earlier, and tell us a little bit more about the book.
So I wrote a book. It's called The Red Chair Experience. It is a daily inspiration for success in life and business. And so it's 366 entries that are inspired by quotes that I just picked up along the way. And so we were talking a bit earlier about I just realized sometimes I just go through life and do things and I don't recognize how big things are sometimes. And this was one of those projects that took me a year and a half. And it came about because a friend sent me a meme. But let me back up a little bit. So in July of 19, my daughter gets married, and I didn't realize it at the time, but it would be the last time that I'd see my younger brother alive, because 2 months later he would die by suicide. Well, 6 months later, the pandemic starts, right? And now it's if you've ever lost somebody close to you, the emotions and all of that stuff that kind of goes with that, all the stuff that goes with that can be a burden. But now you go 6 months later and you're in isolation, and you're not supposed to be out with and amongst other people. And being in sales a number of years at that point in my life, 20 plus years in my life, that was one of those really difficult situations. And so what I learned and what I got the opportunity to do was, because a buddy sent me a meme that said, if during this pandemic you are not trying to improve yourself, not trying to find your side hustle, not looking for ways to do something different, then it's not that you didn't have the time, it's that you wasted it. And I was like, oof, okay, here we go. And so I'd always wanted to write a book. I had no idea what about. And what I learned during this process was it was actually therapeutic and cathartic, was to sit down and write out all of this stuff. And there's been a number of studies done on that, by the way, that are phenomenal. But that's part of the emotional processing that I got to do. And I think that helped me a ton. So I started writing the book in May of 2020, finished it in November of 21, and published it in April of 22. And so it's been out for a couple of years now, and a few hundred sold. And I continue. If people catch up with me at Service Nation or at one of the shows, I might have a book with me. At Service Nation, I have books with me. And so if anybody ever asks me about a book, I'm very happy to give them out, or if somebody wants to pay me for them, that's fine too. But I love to be able to share it, because when I originally did this, it was really more for me. It was about, I remember thinking, if one person would pick this thing up and get something out of it, right? That's how limited my thinking was, if just one person picked it up, I'd be happy. But that's all I wanted, was to make an impression in one person's life. And here we are, several hundred copies later, and it's kind of cool.
So I'll back you on this. Chris and I wrote a book, and it took us about probably 4 years to write it because it is a very long, tedious process. It literally, when you think about all the boxes that it checks none of my boxes as far as organizational or any of that stuff. But when we finally said, okay, this is going to be it, was the same thing you just mentioned. The pandemic had happened, and we kind of went, okay, we have to finish. Like, we always talk about not having enough time. We got time, so let's do this thing. And and let me say this too: for anybody who wants a copy of the book, just buy the copy of the book. They're not expensive. Again, I'm saying this as an author as well. It's not even about the couple bucks that the book sells, but it does help recoup, because it is a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of energy to write a book. So now you can. I'm going to guilt trip people. If you give them a book, I'm going to say, you need to give the man.
Well, I appreciate that. But I say that to say that I do have copies, and occasionally people ask me, they're like, do you have a copy of the book? Can I buy one from you? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And that was the one thing that I heard. And Justin, you probably do the same thing. You probably have a box of books sitting in your car or very close to your car, so that whenever you're out and about, if somebody asks you about it, you've got one. I'm not actively out, hey, buy my book. But, if somebody asks me about it, I'm like, absolutely. And I do give them out on occasions, because there are people that inspire me, and I want to do likewise for them. I want to give them something that hopefully will inspire them and bring a little bit of joy to their life. So,
well, and I will tell you, for me, I love daily readers. I love daily readers of just you've got a couple minutes to refocus, hopefully at the start of your day, to kind of recenter on what is it that I'm going to focus on today. Because I think a lot of times people, especially business owners, we tend to be caught in that, doing it phases, and not in the let's be strategic and let's be in charge of our time and let's push forward. I think that's, I think it's fantastic.
Well, John Maxwell talks about this a lot, living intentionally, right? And living with purpose. It's interesting. We can easily get caught up in, especially as contractors, we can get caught up in the daily grind. Oh, I've got to get up. I've got to do this, right? I have to start at 6 a.m. Because I have to beat everybody to the office, and I have to take care of all this stuff. What if you took 15, 30 minutes to just take care of you first, right? And I'm a huge proponent of that. What if you just took 15 to 30 minutes to take care of you first, to calm yourself, to get available to receive what in the world is going to happen today, because you have no idea, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? But what if you just took time to take care of you for just a few minutes? What that does for the rest of your day is amazing.
I go through, as most people do, seasons of life, right? And that's a big thing with me, is there's seasons where I do a really, really good job of being intentional about my day. And actually I'm in a season right now where I'm doing a very good job in the mornings of, me. Like I have that time where, I have my coffee, I have my AG1, I do some reading, and I can tell you the difference it makes is big. But then on the flip side of that, I've had many seasons where I've been up at 4:30 in the morning, and I have this almost anticipation of, if I don't go to the shop right now, it will burn down.
Yeah. Well,
So
and we
yeah.
can get caught in that, right? I mean, that's
Hmm.
part of the thinking that we need to adjust, that we need to help out with. That story I told about my dad, that was one of those things that, is those conversations you never forget. And I don't blame my dad, but that was the start. That was one of those moments in life where I went, I'm not good enough. I'm just not good enough, right? And that was the play that just kept running in my head was, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. And it wasn't his fault, other than him making the comment, it wasn't his fault that I perpetuated that in my mind, right? And
Mm.
so that's where, if we can cut that off, right, by reading something that says, hey, you are enough, you're awesome, you're amazing, right? You've got this to look forward to. To your point, that stops the place is going to burn down if I don't show up at 4:35, right? So it's the ability to be able to do that sometimes that again, if we learn to take care of ourselves, that's huge. That's huge.
So one of the things that I know I've made you share so much stuff that most people probably don't know about you. I'll say this: you are probably not probably you are one of the top 1% of readers that I know, and I read a lot of, and by read I mean Audible. But I consume a lot of books and videos, personal development. Like that's just such a big passion of mine. But um, how many books did you read last year? It was a lot.
Well, I'm going to put the caveat on this. So last year was a lot, but last year, towards the end of the year, I read all of the Agatha Christie, Hercule Poirot stories. There's like 50 of them. And I read probably 35 of them in the last couple of months. They're not very long stories, but they're stories, right? So take out those 35, and I probably only read 50 books. So, but you say that, and I say that, that was something I had to work on because when I remember being younger and not really enjoying reading and
Hmm.
not just enjoying the opportunity to kind of soak some things up. I was having a conversation with somebody last week, and they said, "Oh yeah, I was a voracious reader, and I'd read 60 or 70, 80 books a year that are self-help books." And he said, and then I realized one time somebody asked me, "What did you get out of any one of those books?" And it stopped him dead in his tracks. And what he was doing was, and we can get caught up in this, is the reading just to read. But he said, I backed off to like 10 books a year, 10
Hmm.
self-help books or business books. And I use Goodreads to track my reading and what I do. So like you, Audible is a big help for me. But I don't mind reading regular paged books. So I typically like to read about 60 books a year. That's about five a month. And I want at least one, if not one and a half a month to be business or some sort of personal growth. So my goal is to read, because I had heard a stat years ago that really savvy business owners, the really wealthy kind of smart people, read 16 books a year. And I was
Hmm.
like, you know what? I want 16 just good, solid business or personal growth books a year. The rest of them can be fun. Um, I can't even think of them now, but yeah. um,
I can say I don't know the last time I read like for me I can't think of a person like besides reading to my kids when they were
yeah.
small. Any books that I read typically are around business like that is my pleasure reading.
Well, when I was in sales, I'd be in my truck all the time. And so if I
Hmm.
wasn't prepping or making phone calls, I was reading a book. And so I got to
Automobile
listen
University.
to,
It's a great
yeah,
thing.
absolutely. And so
Yeah.
that was really what started my journey in terms of really starting to listen to CDs and Audible and that kind of stuff because it was downtime. Now when I travel and I get on a plane, right, I'm listening to a book. I'm maybe watching a movie, but more times than not, I'm listening to a book. and whether it's for pleasure or for business, it doesn't matter. But sometimes, like Monday morning, if I'm on a plane, I'm reading a book for business. On the plane home, if I haven't finished that business book, maybe I'm finishing that one, or maybe by the time I'm coming back on Thursday or Friday, I'm like, I'm done. I just need something that just don't care.
Checks me out.
Exactly. Lets me live in that
That's
fantasy world, for just a little while before I have to hit the road again. But yeah,
that's awesome.
that's what really sparked it for me, was being in sales and having that ability, that drive time. It was just dead time, and I just want to make use of it.
So, want to shift gears a little bit to an upcoming, amazing, awesome, spectacular, magical, one might say, event
One
coming up,
might
which
say
is
that.
Service World.
Yes. One might say that it's going to be magical. Absolutely. Yeah. So
So,
we've got
tell us a
this.
little bit about what people can expect obviously, hanging out with you and I is a big bonus for anybody that goes to Service World. Um, but what are some things they can expect?
Well, a couple of things. First and foremost, as supporters of the Joseph Grow Foundation, every year the day before Service World begins, there's a golf outing, and we help to sponsor that so it's a golf outing for the Joseph Grow Foundation in whatever city that we are in. So this year in Orlando, we are going to have on Monday, we're going to have that Joseph Grow golf outing. And so I'm going to be participating in that this year. And then on Tuesday, we're doing something a little bit different this year. And on Tuesday morning, Tuesday like 9 to 1, we're going to have 4 different kinds of workshops. And those workshops are going to be really geared towards people wanting to learn a little bit more. So we're going to have one on AI. We're going to have one on, I'm actually going to do a class on leadership communication. We've got another one on business acumen and financials and that kind of stuff. So there's a number of things that we're doing a little bit different. And then that evening, we're going to kick things off with, I believe Damon John is going to be speaking on Tuesday
Yep.
night. And so we've got some really exciting things coming with some speakers. We've got educational workshops that we're doing. And we made that shift last year as we saw a real need that we were kind of getting away from the real solid stuff. We were doing a little too many, if you will, business commercials. And so people were coming in and talking about really good stuff, but then it was just a commercial for their business, or it was a commercial for their, somebody else's business. And so we're doing these workshops that are contractor focused, that will give people the opportunity to walk away with a short list of things to do. And I do mean short, because we don't want you to walk away with 30 different things to change. We want you to walk away with 1 or 2 or 3. And we're going to make them actionable. So you're going to have time in the workshops to work on that first step. Who's going to be involved? How much is it going to take? What's the time it's going to take involved in all this stuff? What other resources do I need, right? We're going to help you to work through that stuff and prep you so that when you leave Service World, you know what you're going to do come Monday morning, right? When you get back in the office, you know that first step. Hey, guess what? I've already started it. I've already got it moving in the right direction. And so that's one of the things. Plus, we've got a ton of vendor partners that are going to be there to show you some of the stuff that they're doing, some of the things that they've got that they're excited about doing. And there's so many people that we get to work with, which is really kind of cool. So we got some really cool things set off, and you called it magical. I'm sure it's magical for a reason, because it is being held down on the Disney property down in Orlando, Florida. So we're really looking forward to that.
I tell you, Service Nation as a whole and Service World, just over the last couple of years, just every time it gets better. And it's really fun and exciting to watch that progression. And then from the workshops that happened this year with Service Nation, making the shift that you guys did to more workshop based, so great, so impactful. And like you said, as a contractor, as a student of this business, it was nice to be able to have the time and space to learn something, 1 or 2 things, and then be able to actually action them, leave, and implement it. So
Yeah.
service world this year. I'm pretty pumped up. I'm excited.
Well, one of the other things, and I'm glad you are, I'm really looking forward to it too. Now that I've started going and I start to see the same people, right? This is the other piece of it. And this is what I want to make sure that we focus on this too. And we give people the opportunity to do this. We have time built in so that people can get to know each other. They can network, right? So if they come to you and they're like, hey, Justin, I've got questions, man. I see you did this. You've worked your business this way, right? But it's also a chance to build those relationships so that 6 months from now, you're at another event and you're like, hey, Justin, can we grab lunch? Love to catch up with you. Haven't seen you in a bit, right? And we've kind of had that relationship over the last year since I've been here, year and a half I've been here, is we've had that in passing. We've gotten to see each other at a couple of events, but it's really been kind of in passing where it's like, oh, hey, let's grab 5 minutes. Let's grab 20 minutes. Let's talk about this. Let's do this real quick. But that's one of the things that I really love about what Service Nation is all about, and that is building the relationships.
Yeah, there's so much good stuff with networking. And Tom Peregrino, I had him on an episode couple weeks ago, and he was telling a story about somebody basically busting into a circle of people and was like, "Hey, tell me stuff," and how that guy is growing, and he still continues to come. I will say, obviously, for people that are listening, that if you're an extrovert, that's super easy. You're like, "Cool, people, let's go." People that are introvert, that is a little more difficult. But there is a good group of people that go. There is a lot of the same people that go, but it's not so cliquey that if it's your first time, you're going to feel like an outsider. So don't feel that way. I will say though, because it's an event, you do have to just kind of mentally prepare to put yourself out there a little bit, right? I mean, that's the whole point is you got to be, and listen, if you're watching this, you've not, very nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you, Chris. So you know us, so you can come find us and say, hey guys, I saw you on the podcast. Great to meet you. And, you know, everybody's very nice and everybody's in the same, everybody may not be in the same season of life, but everybody's going down the same path of, you know, running a business and growing a business. And it doesn't matter what stage or season you're in. Every business owner has got a challenge or opportunity that they're working on. Every one of them. I am not excluded from that, nor does anyone else that I know, unless you have sold and retired and now you got other issues that you're working on.
Well, and again, we all get an opportunity to be around like-minded individuals, and introvert, extrovert doesn't matter. I mean, I think my girlfriend calls me the most extroverted introvert she's ever met, or most introverted extrovert. Anyways, I like people to a certain extent, and then I'm done with people. And what I mean by that is I can only handle so much of that time. And so you're right, as an introvert, sometimes we have to mentally prepare for that and say, I can do one conversation, I can do two right? And then you have to go sit in the corner and kind of regroup, and that's okay. But don't let those moments slip away either, right? And maybe you need just that one more, let me get one more conversation. Let me go, you know what? I saw Justin on the show. I saw Chris on the show. Let me go and just say hi to those guys real quick. And I have no problem, and I know you're the same. If somebody walks up and says, hey, you don't know me, that's okay.
We do now.
We do now. But don't be afraid. You know, if you see, like you said, Tom talking about that guy that jumped, just fully immersed himself into a circle of people talking, don't be a jerk. But, you know, at the same time, don't be afraid to step up into a conversation and become a part of it. Because I guarantee at least one person, if not more than one person, is going to look over at you and go, hey, my name is Chris. Welcome. You know, come on in.
Yep. Well, man, it has been awesome catching up. Any last minute thoughts you want to leave us with before we check out here?
Well, you know, being the training director, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the training program. We've got a lot of awesome trainings that we do throughout the year, and what I'm trying to do is, as you see behind me, there's a calendar. It's blank right now. That's 25, and I'm working on the 25 calendar right now. But what we've done is we've reached out to contractors and we said, what do you want? Tell us what you want. What do you need as a business owner? And I'm working really hard to make sure that we're providing those kind of classes that you want and need, whether it's in person, online, whatever, through an LMS. We want to help you. So we've got over 70 classes that we do every year, again, in person or online. And they're great opportunities to come and meet some folks, to really learn and hear from your fellow contractors. And I know for me, a lot of times I lead and facilitate a group is what I do. When the trainings that I do, I've got some teaching, but the reality is it's a facilitation of the conversations that's going on. And that's what I love is we want people to get involved because we can learn so much from each other.
Yeah, Service Nation has been one of those. Krista and I in our business, I don't even know how long we've been a part of it, but it's been a long time and one of those very impactful parts. So for anybody who listens to the show on a regular basis, I know that we talk a lot about Service Nation, and I hope if you're somebody who listens to this show a lot that you're a member of Service Nation. And if you're not, what are you waiting on? But there's such good training. There's such good networking. I can tell you, like I have lifelong friends that I have met through some of the networking. Like we talk about books. I've got Justin Norquist and I. We have a book club that we do once a week. So I mean, there's great friendships and relationships that are bonded inside of the group. So if you're not a part of it, we'll put all the information on the show notes. Chris, what's a good way for somebody to get in touch with you if they want to find out more?
The best way to reach out to me is just shoot me an email, and that is cmichel, MICHEL, at servicenation.com. And I know we'll put that in the liner notes, but don't hesitate to reach out. If you have any questions whatsoever, I usually respond pretty quickly. Unless I'm, in the middle of teaching, then it usually takes about 24 to 48 hours for me to get back to you. But we've got a lot of great opportunities, and I would love to connect with anybody out there that has any questions or just wants to learn a little bit more about what we do, or you just want to know Justin and I.
Come see us at Service World.
Yes.
Awesome. Chris, thanks for coming and hanging out with us, man. We're going to have you back on because there's still a lot of stuff that we didn't even scratch the surface on that I want to talk about DISC, and I want to talk about leadership. And I know that's stuff that you love geeking out with me on. So we'll definitely have you back on. But Chris, I appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the time.
Check. So I got to tell you, this is why I love getting to do this podcast. I genuinely get to meet some amazing people, and I also get to know people that I've known for a while. I get to know them a little bit better. Today, I learned a lot about Chris and his story and his journey, and I'm really thankful that he came and hung out with us and gave us some great values. I mean, what a great takeaway about talking about living intentionally and taking care of you. I don't know about you, but I know that I am bad about thinking that I've got to get the next thing done and being on that hamster wheel, so to speak. But it's always good to hear about the, take care of yourself. I mean, listen, that's why when you get on an airplane, they tell you to put on your mask before helping anyone else. If you're not in a good place, it's really hard to help others. But so as we come to a close here, I just want to thank you for coming and hanging out with me today. And if you have a few minutes, make sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share with a fellow leader who could benefit from mastering leadership, perseverance, and growth in the home service industry. Until next time, keep those ambitious goals and watch your business and leadership transform. This is Justin Deese signing off from Freedom Blueprint Podcast. Stay motivated, stay committed, and as always, keep crushing it.
You've been listening to the Freedom Blueprint Podcast. Information is useless if not applied. So take what you've learned and go and implement it. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on social media at Freedom Blueprint for Home Services and hit the website at www.freedomblueprintpodcast.com. See you next time.